Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey, everybody. As my intro just said, Chad Ikes. Haven't recorded many podcasts as of late. Those of you that follow me on my Instagram know that I sold my house and moved, and I'm building a barn dominium. But this is kind of where I'm crashing for the next few months and trying to get back on schedule with the podcast and getting things going. Once we get the barn dominium done, I should be able to set up a nicer booth for better recording and all that other stuff. So in this episode, I'm actually going to start with a story just because it came up the other weekend and it was really funny. So I thought I would tell it. And then I want to talk a little bit about stress and how that stress affects everything that we do, and especially our training. During the move and everything, I've been gradually dropping my weight back down, and I was going to stay around like 300 to 305 for a few months. And during the move and with all my training, somehow, before I knew it, I was down to like 290. And I went, okay, well, let's try to hold here for a while. So I started eating a little more and went to the Texas Roadhouse with Ethan, Carla, and Bailey, who are basically family for me because they traveled everywhere when I was competing. And man, the rolls with the butter, I ate a whole bunch of those and stuffed myself. And well, I'm still in the 290s. Anyway, our conversations are always really, really kind of funny because we catch up and talk about life and regular stuff, and inevitably a story will come up about lifting, because that was such a big part of my life and their lives with me, because Ethan was training and competing and he handled me everywhere we went. And we started talking about the time where I actually ended up picking him up before I went up to do my squat. And I always remember talking about this because, you know, I got pretty amped up for the squats. I like getting really, really amped up. And then when I get under the bar, I pull back just enough to make sure that I'm focused. So at this meet, as we're getting amped up, I normally would just kind of push. We'll be butting heads and screaming at each other, and I push him to the side. And for some reason at this one, I had my head down and I basically just grabbed him and lifted him up and kind of went to put him to the side. And I remember this little flash of like, oh shit, like if I knock him on his ass, I'm going to be laughing too hard to even want to lift. And that didn't happen. Luckily, he came back down on his feet, and I just went and I don't know. I think that was in New York, up in Lake George, and it was a WPO semifinals, which I actually won. And I can't remember. My squat was 1100 and something. But it was funny because that story came up. And I don't think I've ever heard Ethan really say his perspective on that, but he kind of thought the exact same shit I was thinking. He's like, yeah, I remember you picking me up and I went to like grab something, but your suit was so tight. He's like, I couldn't get a hold of the straps and you're so damn big, I couldn't really grab your shoulders. And he goes, I just remember thinking, if he knocks me on my ass, I'm going to be laughing so hard. And so it was funny that we both kind of came up with that. We kind of had the same, just shows how similar we are. We had the same kind of thought process about this whole thing. And that was kind of one of the ones where I went, okay, Chad, you need to like pull back and tone this down just a little bit because you're getting way too crazy before you're going out and squatting. So yeah, I just thought that was funny. I look back on those days with such fondness. And there's so many great stories, and there were so many great experiences. And man, I love lifting heavy. Whew. That was for me going into a meet. Like you just did all this work, and you did all this dedication and this eating and getting sleep and missing all these other things in your life. And here now you get to show what you did. And that whole just that night before and getting ready for the competition and warm-ups, and then that getting amped up right before you step onto that bar. Oh man. So good times, just good times. But I thought it was I look back at that story and laugh because I do remember picking him, and he was, man, 293, 300 pounds at that point, and I just picked him up. It was like nothing. Which is funny too, to look back and some of the goofy things I did during that time because I was just so fucking strong. I remember the guys at work would tell all these stories, like my forklift would run out of propane and I would just push it to the propane. And the guys were like, dude, those were like 14,000 pounds. And I'm like, yeah, so. And then we had these big batteries for our pickers. We had a cart. You'd put the battery on the cart, and then you'd roll the cart to put that battery off, get a fresh one, and put it back in. Well, the cart had a big, probably I don't know, like a 2 or 3 inch diameter bar across the back of it. And I could wheel that battery, and those batteries were 12 or 1,400 pounds, I think. I could take that battery all the way to the farthest end away from the front wheels and chain it up. And then I would grab that big bar that's across the back, and I would basically lift it and kind of wheelbarrow it everywhere instead of like just pushing it. That and throwing kegs around, which a standard beer keg isn't all that heavy. I think it was 160 pounds, 170 pounds. But if you pick it up end to end and you don't tilt it, but you pick it up end to end and put it overhead, it's a pretty good grip and hand forearm workout because that thing wants to turn a lot. But yeah, I used to do all kinds of crazy stuff like that. It was good times. So I have a client who actually lives in Pakistan. And he recently, I do all his training, and he recently signed up with Fiercely Fueled Nutrition, which we've actually had them on this podcast, and they're great. I really like what they do. I like the way they approach it and go about it. Well, he signed up for Fiercely Fueled. And so I've been kind of checking with how that's going on our weekly calls and stuff. And he had mentioned that they told him, listen, you got to stop stressing out, about missing your macros or getting too much in. Like, you're doing more damage with getting stressed out than what it's actually doing eating more. And the problem is, and I actually did not realize this, but in Pakistan, if somebody offers you food, it's very, very disrespectful to not eat. And basically, whenever you go visit somebody or go to their house, they're going to offer you food. So he would be like, "Oh God, I got too much," and it was funny because the lady at Fiercely Field was like, "Dude, it's okay. Like, think more in terms of the week and what you're doing, and it's not the end of the world." This just reminded me of some things, and I thought I would do a podcast about it, since trying to get more regular again with the podcast while I'm here, and then we'll probably have a little window till I get the full move and set up down there. But for now, and it kind of got me back to some of the things that I've learned over my career, and especially when I was lifting heavy. And I even saw a clip the other day of Jay Cutler, and he was talking about how I couldn't have any negativity around me when he was, his Olympia years. And he's like, he goes, honestly, my phone wasn't even on most of the time, but if it was on and I answered it and somebody wanted to rattle off all their negativity and shit in their life, I would just hang up. And then that sent me down to memory lane to watching Pumping Iron. And even I think the first time I watched Pumping Iron when I was a kid, that scene where Arnold talks about not having any stress in his life and like keeping everything positive, like some of it somehow sunk in more than I thought. But in that scene, he's talking about his dad passed away and his mom called and said, "Are you going to the funeral? Are you coming back doing this?" And he's like, "Listen, I'm in training for the Olympia and I'm kind of cutting this short, but he's passed away. Whether I'm there or not is not going to make a difference. I need to stick to this training." And he was like, "Yeah, if somebody steals my car, no, I can't get upset about it. I can't worry about it. Yeah, I'm going to call my insurance company and I'm going to get that taken care of. But then that's it." And thinking back to my heaviest competition years where I was completely and utterly, man, powerlifting was it. It was the top. Everything else was second to powerlifting. Life was actually pretty easy because I remember every time I'd get upset or get stressed out, I'd be like, what is this doing to my training? Like I have all this energy into my training. I have all this energy into eating as many calories as I am, which sucked. And I hated eating that much. Like if I let stress take away from that, why did I put all that hard work in? And I even remember when I kind of stopped competing at the highest level and made that decision to work on my mental health, people would ask me like, "Oh man, isn't life so much easier now?" And I would think to myself, no, it's actually not. It's actually harder. Like when I was competing, I had this one goal that overrode everything. And no matter what it was, it's like, hey, I'm going to be short on this bill or I got to make some more money to get to this meet. It was like, okay, but you can't stress out about it. I always had this one major motivator that kept me relaxed and kept me controlling the stress in my life. And when I stopped competing at that level, somehow I didn't realize, I didn't put it all together right away. So it was like I didn't have that major overlying factor. So then I started letting all this stress and stuff get to me. And it took me a while to go, wait a minute, just because you're competing doesn't mean you should just let the stress and everything go. And I think part of that kind of came through when I got a divorce and I started researching communication and kind of started to put everything together like, wait a minute, this isn't just for a sport or if you're have one motivation in your life. Like, why do you want to be stressed? Why do you want to let this stuff impact you and let that negative energy in your life? Because stress, whether physical or mental, it affects the body the same way. And it's going to do all kinds of damage. It's going to slow your recovery. It's going to mess up your ability to output as much as you can. It's creating more work. Your body's in fight or flight when it should be resting and recovering. So it's going to jack your hormones up. It's going to jack your insulin up. It's going to affect pretty much everything in your body and especially your mind. So instead of being happy and relaxed throughout the day, you're going to be stressed out and pissed off and in fight or flight. So your central nervous system is jacked up the whole time. And why would we want to be like that? I want to be in control of that, where I want my highs and I want that fight or flight, but I want that when I want it, when I need it. And nowadays in our lives, we really don't need that. Our lives are pretty goddamn simple, especially here in America. For most people. So I want to control when that happens. If I'm training and I'm training hard, okay, now I want to let it out. I want to hit that stress. I want to do that. If I'm out riding my BMX bike and it's like, all right, let's get out and crank a training session out. Even if sometimes when I go hiking, I have a tendency to see a peak and I'm like, all right, how fast can I get there? And I push myself with that kind of stuff. But I want to be able to control that. And if I'm not doing any of those things, I want my body recovering. the best way it can, and I want to be in the best possible mindset I can be in. And so I'm amazed, even if your goal is I want to bench 315 for 5, or I want to lose 20 pounds. I mean, it doesn't even matter how small it is. Why wouldn't you take every advantage that you can? And stress, controlling your stress, is a major advantage. Not to mention, why do you want to live the victimhood life? Like, live the heroic life. Life doesn't happen to me. Life happens for me. I always have a choice to perceive what's going on the way I want to. I want to perceive it in a positive light. But that's going to come back, and that's always going to make you better at reaching your goal. It's going to make you better at decision making. It's going to make you a better parent, and it's going to make you better in a relationship. It's going to make you a better friend. It's going to help you live longer, healthier. People that are highly stressed aren't the best agers. They have lots of problems as they get older. So, I mean, I'm just like, this is not going into the depth of the actual science behind all of this. You can research that yourself if you want. But I'm covering this from the very simple standpoint that stress is this crazy thing that just impacts our whole body. Like, everything about our body is impacted by stress. And if you learn to control that, and you learn to take charge of your life and take charge of who you are, you can control that stress, and it's going to make everything easier. If you're going to the gym and killing yourself, if you're getting to bed early, if you're eating healthy most of the time, if you're, skipping the parties on the weekends because your training goal is more important, why would you do all of these other things and not control your stress? And controlling your stress, one of the things I think is really funny, and I watched a video about sleep the other day, and where they were talking about, if you're sleep deprived, your decision making is not very good. So if you're sleep deprived, you're not thinking with a clear head. You're not making the best decisions. It's the same thing if you're highly stressed. You're not making the best decisions. If you're pissed off, irritated, stressed out, and something comes up and you're just like, oh, just do this or just do that. Like, and there was a story one time. One of my buddies was working on they were putting in this pipe to bring water from like Honey Lake to Reno or whatever the hell it was. And he was telling me this story that, like, he's just stressed, trying to get done really fast. And for some reason, he can't get this one nut started. And like, he's just getting madder and madder and madder. And finally his superintendent or whoever was like, dude, go take your break, man. And he went and took his break, ate some food, had a drink, calmed down. And as soon as he came back, he's like, they bolted right up. And he's like, literally nothing physical changed over that time except his stress level. He was stressed out, and so things weren't working as smoothly and as easily as they could. When he came back and he was relaxed, all of a sudden, probably his hand-eye coordination was smoother. His thought process, he just went, slow down, man. Let's just get it started. Okay, bam, there it is. Like, that's a perfect example of like just being highly stressed and not making the best decisions. You can't see all the opportunities or all the choices if you're stressed out. And when it comes to nutrition, the same thing. If you're calm and relaxed, you're going to make better choices on your nutrition, because you're going to be able to see the picture. You'd be like, hey, oh, those donuts look good. But you know what? That's getting me further from my goal. I'm going to eat the donut. It's going to make me happy for like 10 seconds while I'm chewing it, and then it's gone. So let's just go eat my meat and rice or whatever I have, because I enjoy that too. And I'm going to be happier afterwards that I stuck to that. And you're going to make a solid, good choice. If you come into the gym and you're stressed out and you're pissed off and you had a bad day, you're going to try to go in there and probably without even thinking about it, you're going to try to get that whole biggest endorphin rush that you can. You're probably going to go in there and make bad decisions, push yourself farther than you should, make bigger jumps than maybe you should. And you're just going to try to work out all this aggression. And at times that can be great because a lot of people don't train hard enough. So that could be good. But if you go in there with a clear mind, you're going to do much better at picking what you need to do, pushing to the proper level, which might be to go very, very hard. But now you're going to do it with a much clearer head. You're probably going to do it with a lot better technique. You're going to have more thought process, and you're probably going to push yourself further. The other way, you're just crashing and burning and you're working your muscles great, but you're not working your technique. You're not working your CNS. And you're putting yourself at risk of an injury. And these are all things that I've experienced throughout my career. I lifted emotionally for a long, long time, and I didn't get good until I decided to lift with my mind and be more intelligent about it. So this is just something to think about. Think about your life and think about how you live it. And am I letting myself get stressed out all the time? And why? Why? Somebody has a quote and I can't remember it, and it's something about all the situations I was stressed about, the stress never changed the outcome at all. So why get stressed about it? Most of the things we're really good at working stuff out. I mean, I can look back at all the things I've been through in my life. I go, wow, I always found a way. I always found a way to get it done. I always found a way to get through it. So why am I stressed out about stuff? I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way to get through it. So just kind of start, and this is not the kind of thing that you're going to change overnight either. It's the kind of thing that you got to kind of work on a little bit at a time, but it starts with asking yourself questions. If you can just get this in your head and get it in your head a little bit to where, I like to use the example of somebody cutting you off in traffic. Well, you can get pissed off and yell and scream and be angry the rest of the whole day. And that whole time, you are affecting your body's ability to recover. You're wasting energy. You could be relaxed and calm. Your body's recovering good. And then you have your full energy to go into the gym and train and get an awesome training session in. Or you can be pissed off all day. You can hold that pissed off, go to the gym, and just completely blow yourself up because you've been pushing for 8 hours now through mental stress and physical stress. And it's going to be hard for you to recover. And before you know it, you're going to end up just being beat up. Or you can go, hey, you know what? You can get, over time, it's like that thing where you get pissed off. And then an hour later, you're like, oh, you know what, man, damn it. I'm still pissed. I let that get to me, but you know what? I'm going to change it right now. And then the next time it happens a few weeks later or a month later, as soon as you get pissed off, and 10 minutes later, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I see where this is going. And then a few weeks later, a month later, that guy cuts you off and you're like, hey, fuck. You know what? Whatever, man. No accidents. You're an asshole, but I'm not giving you the power to ruin my whole day and mess up my training and mess up my goals. I'm good, man. I am good. And then before you know it, you're starting to stay calm all the time. And we're always going to mess up. We're always going to have times. I'm still learning. And I'm still adjusting. And I'm still trying to get better every single day. But once you become aware of it and you start thinking about it, you're just saving yourself tons of time and tons of that stress. And you're gradually learning how to train it. I didn't go into the gym and bench 800 pounds the first time I laid down on a bench. I started when I was a freshman in high school and probably did, I don't even know if I could do 95 the first time I laid down on a bench. So this kind of stuff is still training, but it's training for your mind. And you do that by working and grinding and going and thinking about it and just keep going and going and going until you eventually have a pretty good handle on it and you've got it down pretty good. Okay, that's it. I'm going to let this one go. Hopefully you guys are just kind of think about it. Just think about stress and think about what it does to you and think about the times you've been stressed and go, hey, wait a minute, did I eat really shitty when I was stressed? Oh yeah, wasn't I pretty tired? Did it when I had a super stressful day, did I wake up the next day feeling like shit too? And just kind of think about what the stress does to you and how bad it is and how much it affects you and then start realizing that hey, this is actually something that's in my control. Like a lot of times people go, "Oh, well, this is the way I feel." It's like, "Well, yeah, it's a feeling and you can control that." Like it comes, but you decide what you want to do with it and you decide how you want to react. So we do have control over that. And once you realize you have control over that and you realize the negativity of it, you start going, wait a minute. And I mean, even I think to some extent, I was pretty good at going, cool, I'm staying calm and I'm not going to get upset about it. But I would save it. I would save it for when I needed it. And just have that little memory to spark some of that crazy anger of when I'm trying to throw Ethan on his ass. All right, guys, I'm out.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit couragebarbell.com. Until next time.